All right, so my name is Evan Strong. I am the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, a clothing company that is so much more than just a clothing company, okay? We are called In the Image Clothing Company because we are all universally designed in the image of our living God, who is Jesus Christ. We talk about the skeletal system here, and we discuss how the body isn't about the fat content, it's not about the muscle mass, because those things come and go. And even the muscle mass having an operation, having something that it does, right? All that the muscle mass does is pivot and move the skeletal system, hinge, right? I mean, it's about the skeletal system. So we discuss clothing, right? Being a clothing company, we will have clothing available, always made out of 100% natural materials. And within our designs, behind them, we will always incorporate the intent of clothing sitting like this. The pants will be entirely above the hips, slightly higher in the front than in the rear. Shirts, the top seams across the shoulders need to sit behind the shoulders, and the ones at the edges will sit right at the very edges. Because that's what we do within the videos we've made, I personally have made, right? Of free modifications you can do within clothing you already have with nothing but a pair of scissors. Just to allow your clothing to work for you, right, the best that we can within those designs that you already have or that I've already purchased from other people, right? Because I always say, just because it's true, we can't tell our bodies what to do. It goes for me and him and her, just meaning all humans ever, equal sinful humans. We can't tell our bodies what to do, okay? And because of that, I have had a few prerequisites since before I founded In the Image Clothing Company, just to allow the body to have really a chance to operate natural, okay? So that's to lace your shoes with In the Image Clothing Company's shoelacing technique. You can find that wherever you find us online, including just tying them evenly over toward the inside, right? And all that does, that doesn't do something to your foot. It just allows the shoe to fit around your foot in the shape of the foot to the best of that design's capability, right? Pairing that with removing the tags from the tongues of the shoes up through the entirety of all the clothing you wear. And I've made videos on those tags and what they do, and how they affect and alter what I call the universal human design, right? So, yes, I make claims how we shouldn't have to stretch. We shouldn't have to work out to get up to a certain capability level, because really we just need to do what we need to do. And the body's designed to work to the point that it should do what it would do unless it's altered, right? We recognize things like individual things, surgeries, deformities, amputations, whatever, you know, in your own situation, but really the body should just work. I mean, right, within our own situations. So, yes, we talk about the body more than we talk about clothing. I go into very great depth, as I word it, right, of the anatomy of the human body. I have my series titled The Truth Behind, where I go into the deadlift, push versus pull, the squat, the pull-up, the balls of the feet. Yesterday I did the core, and I discussed the truth behind these things and how, like I say, we shouldn't have to work out to have all this be able to happen. Not meaning like you should be able to crank out pull-ups and stuff. What I mean is the body should work, and usually the reason people do work out is just to try to get their body to work better in their daily life. Unless you are like trying to train to be an athlete, you know, we show that those things aren't actually going to necessarily help you just do daily life activities, because if your clothing is sitting in places that's actually unnatural for the body, and then you train movements, you're actually deeper ingraining an incorrect position and patterning in your body, right? So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to just like kind of do some movements, okay? Not for the sake of like showing tutorials of these movements, not for like even the movements themselves, but to show me as the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. I always discuss that it's about getting our bodies to their capable, naturally capable state, right? We come into the world unaltered, and then through the world, and worldly things, especially because clothing is the only thing placed directly physically on us at all times. It's the only thing that has the potential to and does physically alter our bodies at all times if and when imbalanced or unnatural, right? So I have the collar seam right in this shirt. I call it the dreaded collar seam. There's a video that I made titled The Dreaded Collar Seam, and within that video I did the modification that I have come to find for that and showed how to do it, right? And that's been done to this one, but still fits, you know, there's still the collar seam. The modification's been done and it's so much better, but it is still there, okay? All the tags from my clothing have been removed, okay? Because if there's a tag in the rear of your collar, you're going to have an unnatural gap there. And your shoulders aren't going to be in their natural position. They just can't possibly be, because there's a physical gap because of the tag, and the synthetic materials in there aren't something your body wants to be dealing with, okay? Yeah, I always say if we can, any and all times we can possibly avoid side seams within clothing, on like uppers, right, on tops, do that, as in avoid them if you can. There's no side seams in this shirt. My pants, same thing, tags have been removed. They're sitting where they need to, where I discussed. Same with the shirt, within the capability of that collar seam, right, the dreaded collar seam. My shoes are laced and tied correct with our technique. The tags are out of the tongues of these shoes, right? There's still some like residue, right? But the tags are out so that all that slippery synthetic material that's like ironed on there isn't there anymore, so my arches are allowed to activate within my feet. Yeah, so as you can probably tell, I've been on my left foot this whole time discussing all that. This is what I mean when I say I'm making this video to show natural functions and movements. I want to make it clear, again, just to show that I'm founding this company. I founded In The Image Clothing Company, and we have these claims, but they are true. I've said this, I need to be, to the best of my ability, the example for what I'm sharing, right? Because if I'm going to be sharing things and they are universal truths, I need to kind of go before everybody else who I'm sharing them to, right? And yeah, I need to live them to the best that I can. So I haven't done a workout routine in like, I don't know. I mean, there's no point in trying to say how many months, but I mean, it's been easily, very, very definitely over 6 months, okay? I haven't held like a 30-second stretch in, again, easily over 6 months, okay? Because, again, the body just has its ranges of motion. If you're going to try to stretch your quad, well, it only goes until it stops. You can only get your heel to your glute, and then there's nowhere else to go. So really what it is that hip flexor that needs to be able to elongate. But if you're, I stepped out of my stance there on one foot, but if your pants are sitting where they should, higher in the front than the rear, to elongate, right, elongate those hip flexors, then they're just always able to get into their full range of motion, okay? And so from here, there's nowhere else you can stretch to. You can't get your foot farther than your glute. I made a video one time called Stretching Isn't Necessary, and that's why, and it's truth. Again, it really is. I mean, within your own situation, you might have something like specific to your own body, like very unique to you, and that's okay, but that's why I made that video, and that's how that is true. So that's one thing, right? Mobility also, like, if your shoulder seams on the tops of your shoulders are not where they should be behind them, then it's going to just alter the natural position of your shoulders, right? And I've made a lot of videos on the shoulders, right? I have a video called Naturally Healthy Shoulders. I have a video called Shoulders Naturally Sit Behind the Body, and I went into the anatomy in that one. I have a video called Shoulders Must Be Behind, Shoulder Seams Must Be Behind Shoulders, and I went into that in depth, right? So the point being, the body should just do what it should do. There's in no kind of way talking down on somebody's capability level, if they're not able to do something that like somebody else thinks they should. But what I mean is the body, the human body being universally designed, the skeletal system just having, like I was showing with the stretch, just having its ranges of motion, like the elbow, its range of motion is from here to here. And that's all it does. You're not going to get your elbow to go backward and then like do things, right? So that's what I mean, is the body should do what it does do, as long as it's not being restricted. So yeah, I mean, one thing, that's one of the biggest things that I always talk about and show is balance, okay? Because we do live on a globe that is pulling us directly straight down with gravity. We do have the sternum being like where the ribs come and connect in the front. Right behind that, on our back, we have our spine. Those things are both in the center. And then I also mentioned the nose, also in the center. And so if we're not centered on an earth that pulls us centered downward, then we're going to be using muscles, like stabilizing muscles in the body in ways they aren't designed to actually work, to try to hold us up, or we'd just be falling over. So anytime you're using stabilizing muscles in ways they aren't actually designed to work, you're actually fatiguing your body and training a patterning. I talk about training patternings all the time. I talk about how the body just, like I'm saying here, each thing only has its function, and that's it. And we can't tell it what to do. Because I always say, you can try to tell your body what to do all you want, and then have fun with your foam roller and your stretching routines, or just allow your body, within your own situation, within your own body's capability, to just do what it would do, and it'll just do it, because it's not being restricted at that point, right? So that's our goal here at In The Image Clothing Company. So I just kind of want to stay on one foot for a while, because just mostly to show that I was on the left foot, now I'm on my right. And this is another thing to see. I discussed this a little bit within my video titled How Pant Cuffs Affect Body Mechanics, but I was talking about how most all human beings, since 85%-ish of the population of the earth are right-handed, most of them are tying their shoes unevenly so that most people can't actually stand on their right leg, right? Even if they're standing on both feet, you know, or like walking with both feet, the way that like an actual right leg stance actually is, the insertions and the activations, most all humans, including myself until I was 24 years old, right? At least from the time I started tying my shoes until then, most humans can't actually stand on their right foot. The way that they're like, you know, the way that the actual position is like actually happening. So I want to show, since we do live on a globe, and since we do have a center and we don't have a say over that, ideally we should be able to do things as well on each side of the body as the other side of the body, because that way our bodies are aligned, right? And we can get there easier than most people probably think within your own situations, right? I mean, if you got an amputation, you don't have a hand over here, but you do over here, then okay, you're a little bit, you know, it's different left to right, but that's your situation. That's what I mean when I say we like address things if and when, like, yeah, of course, you know, but that's why they do have things that kind of accommodate for that, like prosthetic limbs. That's more than just, that's doing a lot more than a lot of people might think seeing it, because I mean, even that, even just like evening out the weight. If you had an amputation where your left arm was gone, now with your balance, there would just be different weight left to right from like your sternum, right? From your spine, from your nose. And the earth is still going to pull you straight. And so that's a lot of times what prosthetic limbs are doing, even if that limb isn't actually like mechanical, right? The artificial prosthetic limb, still it's providing an evenness in weight or something like that, right? There's a lot more to it than I ever knew and than a lot of people think. So yeah, the point is, not out of some kind of like ego, but I could stand on this foot and make like an hour-long video and just talk like this. I mean, because I'm not like super like consciously trying to stand, again, not out of like my ego, But out of the body is so capable, because I couldn't do this in the past, even if I were to have been training balance in those times, because my clothing was imbalanced. So no matter how much I wanted to train my muscles or wanted to train my, like, what I would think of as coordination, the body has to be allowed to be balanced. It just has to be allowed to, because we don't have a say on our center, okay? So I kind of want to hold this for a bit, just to kind of like show, like, I'm not trying to make it something it's not. I mean, I can balance so, not I mean, yes, I, but we as humans can balance so well, at least so much better than we've probably been used to, if we allow ourselves to stay centered, okay? Now, they also just aerated this grass, so there's like little pieces of dirt all over it. It's kind of uneven. But now if I go from here and drop down, okay, stuff like that, again, nothing about like individual's capability level, but it's about your body can do so much more when it's not restricted. That's something that wouldn't be allowed to happen, just being able to descend slowly like that from one foot, especially, I mean, I was standing on that same foot for like 3, 4, 5 minutes before that. That wouldn't be allowed to happen if there was an imbalance in my body, because the muscles, even muscles that are far away from that right leg, would have been getting fatigued if they were being forced to be used in a position that is imbalanced and unnatural for the natural body, okay? So, yes, I want to just kind of make it clear, again, that I'm not making some claims here that are just claims. I always say we do speak on universal truths at In The Image Clothing Company, the company that I have founded, right? And the reason that's such a thing to hit is because the way we approach the body's capability is backward from what most of the world would be preaching or showing or thinking, because most people within modern 2024 think that you need to add things to your body, supplements or whatever it is, right? Or you need to work out. But really, again, we take things away. We remove unnecessary things from clothing. We simplify what and where we can to get back to what was designed, being our bodies, and get rid of a lot of things that we designed as humans, being clothing and, you know, man-made things. So, yes, the body is supposed to do its thing. Okay, I talk about animals. I relate human beings to animals a lot in the sense of like physical function, okay? You don't see animals holding stretches in certain positions and then like another position for like a certain amount of time. If you ever see an animal stretch, it's just after it wakes up, it does like maybe 3 seconds of just like elongating its muscles and then going throughout its life, right? And we're no different in that way than animals, right? Because the body should just do its thing. So I don't want to be like overly trying to like, because I don't want to show off any kind of like, if I throw some flips or do some kind of movement, I want to show more like functional, general things to show what the body can do, no matter what your capability or like coordination is, right? Because the focus isn't about anything that I've like worked up to do, but it's about these natural things like standing on one foot that people feel like they can't quite do, that the body is designed universally to do. Because the thing with standing on one foot, you call that a unilateral movement. Uni means one, right? Lateral means side to side. So unilateral movement is like a one-legged thing. Like a squat it would be called like a bilateral movement, right? It's both legs are doing the same thing. So like in a deep low squat, right? You're doing the same thing on both sides. And now a deep low squat's a good point too, because even me, meaning just you're seeing me do it here now, but I haven't trained to this. But the body should really do this. But the thing is, the pelvis needs to be able to tuck posterior, and if the pants aren't sitting where I say that they need to for the universal human design skeletal system, then this position that is required within, like, look at my posterior tuck, puts the feet on the outsides of them, right? Natural gripped arch. Shoelacing technique allows for that. Tongues of the shoes allow for that without that synthetic material kind of getting in the way of that gripped arch. If that posterior tuck wasn't allowed to be there in the hips, then this position just can't happen, because the pant waistline would be trying to take your pelvis like this way, anterior, and now you just can't get into that position, right? So it's things like that that I like to show, that it's about just the clothing either inhibiting or just allowing. The clothing doesn't ever aid us in anything, but we can get it to allow us to just do what the body would do, okay? So when it comes to unilateral movements, when I made my video called the walking gait cycle, the natural walking gait, I think is what the title is, I showed, right, barefooted in the grass, the natural walking gait cycle. Gait just meaning the natural human walk, right? And I was discussing it and I explained it. I was showing how my hips don't move, right? A lot of times you'll see people walk and their hips are kind of like shifting, right? Really all that means, and this isn't like any kind of mean thing, but all that means is that your hips are weak. But the reason they're weak is because they're not being allowed to be in their natural position where I'm standing, right? Pant waistline going here, that glute medius that stabilizes that internal rotation and allows the leg to go in, that glute medius deactivates, and you can kind of see that if it were to contract right here to get you posterior, if your pant waistline goes here, you can see this contraction would get expanded, and muscles have to contract, meaning get like shorter, like tighten, right? Like this, shorten to activate, to work. And so that glute medius, just because of the location that our natural bodies were designed with the glute medius in, being such a huge stabilizer of the leg, if it's in a position where the waistline is going here and it's just not allowing this glute medius to contract, then, as I talk about all the time, right, within in the Image Clothing Company videos, that then takes your legs and puts them in external rotation. And I did a video one time called "There is a Lot to Internal Rotation." You can go check that out. That gives you a lot of like foundational understanding of what internal rotation is, right? Internal rotation, internal rotation, internal rotation, right? I mean, that'll give you a lot of foundation of what that really is, and then you can understand this stuff better. So yes, yeah, the body needs to just be able to be internal, right? So this is a good visual though to show that glute medius, because I always talk about the pant waistline affecting that ability to just be able to posteriorly tuck, but now I'm showing here to get this contraction of this side little glute medius here that goes into the leg and again internally rotates it. The pelvis needs to be able to get into its position where that muscle is contracting. Okay, so that's why the waistline needs to sit where it does. Then also, like I mentioned with the hip flexors, I did a video one time called Naturally Functioning Hip Flexors, and same thing, right? If your pants are down, your hip flexors are just already bent. And we need to be able to have our body be allowed to get into its full ranges of motion. It's like walking around always with your arms slightly bent, and then they would never be able to straighten all the way. If you think about like having a cast or a sling, for 6-8 weeks, whatever doctors might tell you that you need to be in it for, when you get out of it, you then have to like work back into that range of motion that's been like trained to be chronically until fixed, shortened, right? And so same thing with the hip flexors. If your pants are, it's hard for me to even see how people normally stand now because it's so abnormal, but really, I mean, that's not an accusation. That's how I was for so long. But if there's a slight bend always in your hip flexors because of the angle of your waistline, then it's the same thing as this. You have to kind of like work back into that full range of motion and elongate your hip flexors. But if you just allow your pants to sit where your body can then just fully extend, then it can just fully extend. And that's how it would be unless altered by something, right? So yeah, anyway, I kind of wanted to give a good visual, a good full body visual. It's not so common in my videos for In The Image Clothing Company to have the camera on the ground like this where you can see my entire body stemming at my feet. It's normally more of like from here up type of, you know, video, but yeah, again, I mean, I could do some flips or I could do something, but I don't want to like, it's not a, what I don't want to do is show things that people don't feel like they could even do, because the point is to show what the human body would naturally do, right? And not that flips and stuff can't be like a natural movement, but that is something that I have trained, kind of worked up to in a sense, and I'm trying to show only, you know, basically only things that the body just would do. But yeah, the point with the unilateral movements, meaning only one side or the other, is what I was saying there. I just didn't quite get through it all the way, I guess. That glute medius, especially within those adductors coming in, right, those inner leg muscles, the hamstring, and then the other glute, and the other glutes, I guess, in the way that they play into it, they just would allow the pelvis to stay naturally. They would just even, right? No matter if you're on one foot and you're going down, or you're on both feet and you're going down, right? I mean, it's the same thing, because the other side's just stabilizing if it's not on the ground as well, right? So really standing on one foot is not much at all. Really, it isn't even different than both feet in the way that the body would naturally work. But that seems kind of far away for a lot of people, as it did for me for so many years, because when I'm standing, a lot of times I'll just be kind of like this, and if you look at my whole body, nothing shifts, whether I'm on both feet or I'm on one foot, because all the same muscles are activating, and like that video I made, the body only has one position, and then we just do everything from there. Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, my body, nothing is moving just because I'm either on one foot or I'm on both. The whole body should still be in its natural neutral stance, because nothing has changed other than like now there's another foot to add stabilization, but the muscles are all doing the same things, right? The skeletal system is all still in the same position, right? Because if I'm here and then I just take my foot off the ground versus if it was on the ground, nothing shifts. No activation changes within any parts of the body. The only thing that has to move is the muscles or bones, but yeah, the muscles moving the bones that would have to get out of the way to take weight off the foot. Everything else is still doing just what it would do, because that's how the body's designed to work in its foundation, baseline, before it's altered, and really just the only way that it actually does anything, right? Seriously, I mean, really. So anyway, yeah, yeah, a lot of internal rotation, right? And I always emphasize internal rotation. I started discussing it a little bit, but that's really what the prerequisites are. Because yes, there is more to do within clothing to just allow the body to work. And we've shown, meaning I have been the one that's made the videos up until today, within In The Image Clothing Company videos, I think I really have shown, I mean, just about everything that you could need to do within like common modern clothing to just allow it to work for your body. But the prerequisites pretty much get you there really closely, right? There's other things just anytime anything's imbalanced, but the body wouldn't naturally be. It would naturally be balanced, okay? So, because of those things that I said. So, yeah, I mean, that might be all that I need to show within this. But I do want to make it very apparent that it's not about me. It's not like I'm somebody who does all these workouts and has all these stretches they know, and I've got like things I'm doing specific, and then I'm just trying to claim that all it is the clothing. When you watch In the Image Clothing Company videos made by me, Evan Strong, I do discuss it all in such great depth, as I say, right? That's how I word it, because really, to where I hit this point all the time. People are getting told by doctors that they need medications, surgeries, physical therapies, injections, whatever it is, all the things, chiropractic visits, anything that you could imagine, just to allow their body to do what it was designed. And that is almost entirely untrue in every single case, almost. I mean, and that's something I could not hit hard enough, and that is something that is true, because the body was designed to work. Unless you've had an actual thing happen to you, which is totally fine, but unless that has been the case, it's just a patterning. As it was in my body's case for so many years. I would stand like similar to how we think of, people would think of bad posture, quote unquote, for so many years. I'm also 6'2" tall, and so most things are shorter for me than most all people, right? I'm just well above average for the entire globe. I mean, I'm way above average height. So they make things for people that are more average, what they would consider an average height person, right? So yes, again, I speak out of experience with everything that I talk about. I speak on universal truths. I try as best I can, being a sinful by nature human being, to just keep all my opinions out of everything. And I try to keep everything universal, right? And I can't speak for people who have a certain deformity that I don't know about, right? Or things like that are so specific to them. But that's why I say if and when, right? Those things can be addressed if and when. But other than that, I speak out of experience. And I speak out of coming from a lot of pain in the past. I speak out of coming from 2 full open heart surgeries, a few other heart surgeries, you know, going to physical therapy for quite a while for knee pain and shoulder pain. I speak out of experience. So I really want to just make it very clear that it's actually so much simpler than most all humans think, believe, have been told. It really is. Because all we do here at In the Image Clothing Company is get back to natural. We do not add things, right? I don't foresee us ever having anything that we would add to like the body or to clothing to aid the body, or like have that be the intention in anything. Because no, it's about stop the restriction, stop the limitation, stop inhibiting its natural mobility and motion and movement, and then it should just do it, right? Really, seriously. So yes, yeah, I mean, I don't know, I kind of want to do something fun, like a whippy cartwheel or something at least, but I don't know, I just don't want to show off. I do have some videos though. I have a side flip tutorial, like a ground side flip. I have a Webster tutorial that's a 1-footed front flip. I have a gainer tutorial, and in that tutorial I didn't actually land any of the gainers, and so that's kind of funny. But you know, I did 3 gainers in a video that I titled "Let Your Clothing Work For You," right? Anyway, these are all where you find In the Image Clothing Company. So my body does work in those kind of ways, and you can go see those if you want to see me do some more like fun movement type stuff. But yes, so we do have In the Image Clothing Company podcast, and in that podcast we just have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, because again, as I'm saying, he designed us, and so anything we're doing within clothing, the only intent and the only reason that I founded In the Image Clothing Company is to allow the body to do its thing, right? Yeah, we're going to have clothing available. We'll never have any kind of tags protruding from the inside. It's going to, again, within the designs, the intention is to have it sit where I was discussing it needs to for the universal human design. It'll always be, you know, what I discussed when I was discussing it. But really the whole reason is just for the body, right? So it's not really about selling clothing. It's just that way we'll have stuff available for people to just purchase, and it'll be good without having to do modifications to allow it to accommodate for the only thing the body actually does, right? So you can check out the podcast, check out In The Image Clothing Company. We are at InTheImageClothingCompany.com, right? Today's date is the 11th of October 2024, and as of this date the website's still under construction, but depending on when you're seeing this, that's just where you'll go. We're going to have big things because, again, it's about a community. It's not about just a clothing company. So there's going to be ways to talk to people online through typing, through videos, like video calling type stuff. We're going to have ways to meet up, and we're going to go on like walks, right, where we get together, meet up in locations and go on trails or whatever, just to kind of, you know, hang out with each other and learn more things about just allowing the body to do what the body does, or just discussing the gospel of Jesus Christ on those walks as well, right? You can bring your phones. If you bring your phone, I try to not use my phone very often. I just, you know, try not to. But if you do bring your phone on like those kind of walks, right, we can film things and show other people, right? Show the world and just people all over the globe the information, the universal truths that we show here about the body, and just to allow it to do what it would do, how to stop restricting it, and just what In The Image Clothing Company is all about. So thank you again. My name is Evan Strong. I am the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, and stick around, share it with your friends, not for like us, not for me, and not for the company's sake, but again, we're building this community for the sake of our universally designed human bodies. Okay, so thank you.